Hello everyone and welcome to OGV Energy Live. Wherever you are in the world, welcome. My name is Eric Doyle and this is OGV Energy Live. This is our skills and training issue. We're coming to you today from a rather damp and dismal Aberdeen, but we're going to brighten up proceedings with all of our lovely guests as we move on. This is our live and interactive stream show where we aim to bring you news and insight from the energy sector by bringing to life the UK's leading energy industry publication, of course, OGV Energy Magazine. Say hello to us, tell us where you are in the world. Let's see if anyone's joined us so far. 1 second, I'll just get rid of that and put on our overlay. I'll get that done. There we are. Perfect. That's good. So this is our skills and training issue. If you've seen the show before, you'll know that each month we feature interviews and discussions with our partners and members from across the publication and across the wider industry sectors that we're talking about. We try and update you on the latest news and opinions on very specific energy related topics. We're going to be meeting some really special people from the world of skills and training today, or loosely related to skills and training. So stay with us to hear what's new and what's going on in our industry. We've got our industry spotlight guest coming up. We're going to be meeting with Andy Powrie from Arnlea, the COO of Arnlea Systems. We've got Rama Sharma coming up, decommissioned facilities and optimization lead from XODUS. And we've got the lovely Ben Herriot from AGR, Global Sales Director. We're going to be hearing all the very latest in what's happening in our Market Watch section. Towards the end of the show, we've got Diveena Danabalan from EIC, and we have Teresa Wilkie from Westwood Global Energy Group. Both been on the show before and both ready to give us all that market update and projects updates and all of that. Remember, we have a little thing on this show. We like to give away prizes, or a prize, and we give away a prize to the best comment or question of the day. So these people give up their time to come and talk with us and share all their insight, and you get a chance to interact with them and chat with them, which is wonderful. So the best put question of the day, we put a little star on these and we just randomly pick a winner at the end. That winner can win a half-page advert or piece of editorial in a future edition of the OGV Energy Magazine. Your marketing team will love you, your leadership team will love you, so keep the questions coming in. But first thing, order of business, say hello to some people. Who was first in with us today? I think the very first person was Alistair Dickinson. Good to see you from the Isle of Wight. Good to see you, Alistair. We've got Andrew Slesser. Thank you for joining us today, Andrew. Keep the questions coming in. We've got Jitendra. We've got Nicola. Nicola, great to see you. Kenny Dooley's here, sitting in the other office next door, and he's put a link into the magazine if you want to go in and check out the latest edition of OGV Energy. We've got Soren from in Copenhagen. We've got Graham Dallas, Nick. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Keep the questions coming in, as I said, and you could win your company that half-page advert or editorial in a future edition of the magazine. But to our first guest of today, way back in the annals of time, in April 2022, I met this particular individual on this very show. He was on talking about another aspect of what they're doing. It's been a while, and he's got plenty to tell us, so please welcome to the show from ETZ, it is Andy Rodden. Andy, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Eric. Yourself?
Oh, brilliant, brilliant. Thank you so much for coming back.
It's my pleasure. I can't believe it's actually been just over a year, actually.
Just over a year, April 2022. So you were on talking about, I guess you'd been in the role for about half a year, maybe just slightly more, and you were in sort of setup mode. You were getting things going. Have you been busy?
We've been trying to keep out of trouble, which with mixed success, I'd have to say. But I think April we were fortunate. We were launched by the First Minister in the March. So for about 6 months before that, obviously we were doing all the stuff you need to do to set up an organisation. But we were launched in the March, and then we spoke in April, and a lot's happened since then. We've been busy.
Yeah, been absolutely busy. So the headline now on the website and all your printed material: new energy, new opportunity, a region renewed.
Yeah, it sounds good.
It does.
I'd like to say I had a massive hand in that, but there are people smarter than me that do these things.
So the whole thing, for anyone who's out there who doesn't know what you and the team are doing at ETZ, creating an integrated energy cluster focused on the delivery of net zero. Can you just give us a wee bit of an overview, just to remind us what it is that you guys are doing?
Yeah, so we're a private, independent, not-for-profit based in Aberdeen, and our role really is to act as a catalyst to industry into the region to really take on the projects that get things started. So we're very fortunate to have secured some government funding from both UK and Westminster, and over the course of the last 12 months, we've managed to secure more funding for specific projects. But it really is about putting in place anchor projects and supporting supply chain, new companies, new entrants. What do they need to actually make a difference and actually progress energy transition and make energy transition happen? And it will happen through companies, it will happen through people. So how do we actually create the environment that allows that to happen? And our planning and thinking has gone a long way forward since then, but fundamentally that's what we're here to do.
Brilliant. Simple. Yeah, it's that simple. Absolutely. The last time we spoke, April 2022, you were talking about plans. We're planning on doing this. We're doing that. It's a bit of a different story that you've got now, because you've been busy actually delivering and doing things.
Yeah, so we've just a brief summary of the snapshot. We've now moved to kind of a campus model. So planning framework and what we're trying to do has really evolved. But within that, the First Minister announced the creation of the Floating Offshore Wind Innovation Centre in partnership with ORE Catapult. We completed that building 3 weeks ago. So we're now in the process with ORE Catapult of actually inputting the kit in to start having that up and running. By the end of the year, industry has been so positive about that their space is full, or will be full of all the test rigs the industry is asking for. At the end of the year, and we've also been able to accommodate people like Trojan Energy and give them a space to grow into, and that's actually seen them relocate manufacturing back to Aberdeen from other parts of the country. So very proud that was something the First Minister announced as part of our launch, and we've actually delivered that building. In addition to that, we'll come on to the Skills Hub, but things like the Energy Incubator and Scale-Up Hub, which is a project to really give companies a space. Back to this, where do companies go when they've got a great idea, or startups, where do they go? It's to really give them a space. And we've got partners on board, so we've announced BP as a headline sponsor. National Manufacturing Institute of Scotland will now have a base in Aberdeen as a result of that. Net Zero Technology Centre to give that wraparound for companies to help them grow and accelerate their growth. And we've announced that project as well. And that should be finished by the end of next year. Planning's ongoing to create a brand new site and a new space on Hayness Road in Aberdeen for those that know the space.
Terrific. Just before we carry on, I'm just going to say hello to some people, and someone's asked a question, which is kind of leading on to what I'm going to be talking about. Hello to Andrew from Aurora Energy in Inverness. Hello to Ryan Gordon from the National Subsea Centre in Aberdeen. Mark Murphy is calling in from Adrich, Aberdeen. We feel you. We feel your pain. Absolutely. I got soaked earlier on today. Hi, Mark. Adam's just taking some random button clicks here. Hello, Saeed, calling in from Pakistan. We are truly global today. A lovely question from Alan Quirk, who's asked the question. You might think because there's a slight similarity to the name, is there a link between NZTC and ETZ?
Yes, in terms of we work as partners. There is no formal relationship, so we're not on each other's boards. They're very close in Aberdeen, so they're about a 10-minute walk away. So NZTC's role really is to how do they accelerate technology, how do they define the technology, and how do they make it into a viable commercial business. Our role really then is to help that business to grow. So ETZ's our key measure is jobs. So we're trying to help companies grow, create more jobs, create more local jobs, create more skills. And within that, then NZTC bring companies who've got technology and they're ready to move to that next stage of turning it into a commercial business. And that's part of why we have things like the incubator with NZTC involved in terms of supporting those companies coming through to help accelerate. So we're very compatible and collaborative. So really we link with each other and work together, but certainly don't compete.
There you go, Alan. It's put there in a nutshell. I hope that was helpful for you. We've spoken in the past, and you guys are very open in talking about the fact that you're stronger in partnership. When we last met, you were talking about possible partnerships, but now you've cemented some real partnerships. Can you talk about who you've partnered with and what they bring to the table with you?
Well, if we take Floyd as an example, it's done in partnership with Offshore Renewable Energy Catapult, and ultimately what we are bringing is part of our local network. We're bringing part of our expertise, and we're bringing the facility, and we're investing in the facility.
Right.
But without someone like the Catapult who really then will drive that forward, it doesn't work. So it is about having someone like the Catapult, bringing them in, and then having the strength of having someone like the Catapult in Aberdeen has brought lots of other opportunities, some of which we're not able to talk about, but some really interesting kind of global leading opportunities, which we're hoping to secure over the next few months to really cement Aberdeen's place, particularly around floating wind, as a sort of global centre of excellence for that floating wind element. We couldn't do it without the Catapult. So it really is about coexisting and really what do they need? How can we help deliver that? How can we bring that to the region? And then how does that benefit industry, the region, Scotland, UK, etc., moving out that way?
Brilliant. Good stuff. Good stuff. If you go onto your website, which I urge everyone to do, and go to the news section, you'll find some lovely stuff. You know, the latest word from ETZ. You'll hear about the ETZ partnering with NZTC and the National Manufacturing Institute of Scotland to deliver the country's first energy incubator and scale-up hub. How's that going, and how is it all sort of working together?
Well, I think that's been fundamental. And before that, we were able to announce BP. A large part of what we can do with the funding is invest in capital. So we can invest in the building and we can invest, but there's no point in creating these things. One, if industry doesn't want it, and two, if it can't survive beyond our involvement. So that's where bringing the likes of a BP involved, who are bringing capital, who are bringing operational funding is really important. But then again, where it's different, I suppose, it's not just a workshop space, it's not just office space. It's having that wraparound support. So what do companies need to grow? Where do they need help and support? And then how do you bring expertise into it to say, well, this is how you do it.
Yeah.
And we are speaking to, for example, companies looking to potentially do manufacturing in Aberdeen. We're able to introduce them to the National Manufacturing Institute, who can then advise them on efficient ways to design their factory. And it's that value add that these partnerships bring ultimately to companies is what we're all here to do, and that's what we're all funded to do. So that's why it's really important to set these up front, because then there's a value to actually being in Aberdeen and being part of that.
Yeah, very good, very good. Something, if you scroll down a wee bit further on that news section, you'll come across a fantastic document. It is really worth reading. If you're in any way involved in people development, or you're looking for, the very latest in jobs and skills, with ETZ in mind, it's the Jobs and Skills Plan. What a fantastic piece of work. And I'm sure you probably wrote it yourself, did you?
I would love to say that I did. I had a very small hand in that document. I mean, a lot of credit to my colleague Lauren Braidwood, who did the lion's share of the thinking and the smart thinking and the creation of the document as well. Was largely down to her with some small editing. I was going to say help. Intrusion probably is more likely. Support and guidance, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a fantastic document, and who would you advise would be the right kind of reader for that, and what should they expect to get out of it?
So the intent behind the document was really one of these things that when you talk about industries coming and growing, how does that impact on the local economy? How do local people get involved? And a large part of that document is really designed to say, if you're bringing company X in, and they need a workforce of a certain size, what does that workforce look like? And then taking a step back, how do we train people now? How do we put people in training now so that when they turn up on day one, there is a trained workforce available to start taking on jobs and to start taking advantage of that. So they get a local workforce. Local people get the benefit of these companies coming, and then that growth is kind of organic then. So the thinking behind the plan was really how do we define that? What's the process? How do we take companies through that? Companies can use it themselves. I mean, it's there free for use, and we're happy to support any company that wants to go through it, and we're happy to talk to any company. But companies who are looking to diversify, companies who are looking to really get involved in new sectors, are really questioning whether they've got the skills. It really does take a sort of process approach to say, right, what are you actually trying to do? Right. What skills do you need? How are you going to deliver those skills? And then ultimately, when do you need to do that? So if you want people by X date, walk backwards from that point. So it's kind of a strategic model for skills and workforce planning effectively. But we're doing it on a scale where if we're bringing a manufacturing company to the region and they want 150 jobs over the next 3 years, 4 years, what does that look like? Yeah. So we're looking at sort of probably much bigger, but you can use it as an organisation for 1 or 2 roles, maybe in a new sector or a new segment or some new thinking, new technology.
Outstanding. Fantastic. Again, I've said it about 1 million times, but we met last year and you had a view in your mind about what ETZ should mean to people. Has that changed much? If you were able to affect the opinion of companies and people as to what ETZ stands for and what it should mean to them, what would you say now?
I wish I thought of this question before. I think, no, my view hasn't changed. Our role is to be a catalyst, but the privilege, and it is genuinely a privilege working here, is our role is to add value to companies and to be that honest broker. And how do we help companies grow, sustain growth, and where do they go and what's it like? We are technology and company agnostic. It makes no difference to us what they're involved in, what they're trying to do in the energy sector. How do we help? And that fundamentally, all the projects we've done, to give an example, I know you've got XODUS on and they're going to talk about X Academy later on. We managed to secure funding that allowed us to accelerate the creation of X Academy. Wow. So the Northeast Economic Recovery Skills Fund, we managed to secure funding because we thought it was the right thing to do. XODUS had a clear vision. How do we make it happen quicker? And the net result of that is people have been actively employed and we see jobs coming at the other end. And from the same fund last year, we did free training for 465 people, got offshore skills, safety training, either offshore wind or oil and gas. We had people finishing the course on the Friday, getting on a helicopter on the Saturday, right, going off to the first job. That ultimately is the measure of what we're trying to do. It's people at the end of this. It's jobs and skills is all about people. So how do we help and positively impact of people in the region and beyond? And that ultimately hasn't changed. And that for me is the privilege that I get to come up with ideas and projects and get to deliver them that have that net impact and effect.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. To our audience today, thank you so much for joining us today. Remember to keep your questions and comments coming in. We've only got them for another couple of minutes and it'll be another year until we see him again. So anything that you hear Andy talking about, if you have a question or a comment on that, please drop it in the chat and we'll put it up on the screen. The actual physical energy transition zone, £400 million development, Aberdeen South Harbour. Can you give us a bit of an update, a bit of a status update, where we're at and where the thinking is?
So our funding really is to be outside the harbour, but without the harbour, and I drove past the harbour today actually, right. And quite interesting, I saw a ship on the last quay, which has just been finished. So the busy harbour, but how do we take an asset like that and unlock it for the region? So it's one of these things. There's a number of things in the pipeline, very exciting projects and companies that are looking to the zone, and the harbour unlocks that for them. So how do they bring materials in, and how do we take finished goods out? So in a year's time, we'll have a lot more interesting things to say about that. But fundamentally, our master plan. So this will all sit under a master plan that's been submitted to the City Council, and that will guide. People will then be able to see what we're planning to do, how we plan to do it, how we plan to execute it, and then we'll actually deliver. That for the region and ultimately for industry and beyond.
Very good. You do such good work and you are in full-on delivery mode, which is great. But I'm sure there must be challenges. What are the hard bits?
No, it's a joy, as always. I think I think the challenge is the environment. I think we've seen from, for example, the announcements about Norfolk Boreas being shelved effectively. The impact that has on supply chain confidence, the impact that will have on us, why should companies do renewables, get involved in renewables, that has an impact. And I think, and this is almost a political thing I'll say, that the government strategies need to be aligned and perhaps more aligned than they are at times with the energy strategy to be really closely aligned to jobs, skills. And sometimes when there's a lag or when there's a gap between that alignment, that means there's a bit of uncertainty in what we're trying to do. We do have the confidence, though, that we think we're doing the right thing. We've been awarded funding for a skills hub. We're going to double the capacity in Altons for welding training, for example, from 14 to 32, which means we need to build and invest in that capacity now so that it's available when industry wants it. So a large part of what we do is a little bit of, not quite build it, they will come, but a belief that industry will need it at some point, so we need to do it now. So it's about investing in that now. And I think that belief kind of drives what we do moving forward. And as long as we have that belief, then we can work around some of the challenges around timing of Scotland, timing of INTOG, timing of when a hydrogen economy will turn. All these things are a bit unknown, so we've just got to kind of work away in the background at building that infrastructure and capacity, so it's there when it's needed, and not wait for it, which is too late.
Yeah, absolutely. Question in from Richard. Richard is, as an established company that can provide strategy and services to emerging companies, how can we connect and get involved to help the acceleration of these companies? I'm guessing the answer is reach out, get in touch, have a chat.
Absolutely. I think for looking at some of the questions coming in, follow us on Twitter, follow us on the social media link, and follow the website. Sign up as someone who wants to get on our mailing list, because when we have new programs, we've just closed a program just now, supply chain fund, challenge fund, which was providing capital grants to companies to invest in capital equipment. There are lots of these things coming, so really get on our mailing list. We send everything out there, and if there are things that you want to get involved in, find out more about, then reach out to invest at etzlimited.com email address or through the website, and the right person will come back to you. And often it's not me, it'll be somebody who knows what they're talking about will come back to you. But we'll come back to you and have a conversation. And as I say, we're open. It's an open house. It's an open, we really welcome all views. And a lot of what we do is industry led. So it's about what does industry think we need, what does industry think we, more importantly, what do we not need to do, and where can we get best value for the money we're spending. And that's all comes from the people on this, listening to this now, and people we deal with across industries.
Superb. Just a note, I just got a note in from Ian Mills at Exceed saying that he's having trouble posting questions. If anybody's having trouble posting questions and they might be watching on one of the different platforms that this going out on, just go straight to the OGV Energy page. You'll see that this show is appearing in the top section of that. Click on that, go in there, and you should be able to send us a question through directly. Right, so you've given us an idea in your last response, but your last call to companies and individuals who are sitting out there wondering what's going on, they've maybe got something to offer, they maybe need something. What would your call or advice be to individuals or organisations and what they should be doing with ETZ?
I think it's very much keep an eye on what we're doing. We run a series of master classes on different subjects. They're free to attend. We generally get around 140 people plus at these events.
Right.
We bring industry experts in, listen to what they have to say, reach out at events. We will be at Offshore Europe, we'll be at Floating Offshore Wind in Aberdeen. Come and speak to us. We don't all bite. And let us know what you need, let us know how we can help. And if we cannot help you, and we'll be quite honest about that, we probably know organisations and other people who can, and we'll put you in touch with those people. It may well be, for example, we've created and co-created something called the National Energy Skills Accelerator. That's a collaboration between Aberdeen University, Robert Gordon University, North East Scotland College, Skills Development Scotland and ourselves. If it's skills related, you're needing help and support there, and there's some interesting free places coming through that organisation towards the end of the year. we'll put you in touch with that group, and that group gives you access to, for example, to universities and a college, and we'll actually, we can give you that access, and from there, whatever we can do to support and help, we will do.
Outstanding. You heard the man. Check out the website, link him with Andy direct. He's a lovely chap, and we'll connect with you and extend the conversation. I hope it's not a year until we see you again. Andy, good luck in all that you and the team are doing at ETZ. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for your time today.
No, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure, and you'll never ask me back every year, which I think says something.
We'll try and fix that. We'll try and fix that.
Not always my fault. That's all I'm saying.
Absolutely. Yes, exactly. Thank you so much, Andy Rodden. See you soon.
Thanks, Eric. Bye now. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Next, we are dropping in on our headline cover page this month's skills and training issue is 3T Energy Group, and an excellent article inside the magazine. We're going to drop in with Gavin Taylor. How are you doing, Gavin?
Hey, Eric. I'm well, thanks.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, you have just hot-footed it from the airport and planes, trains, and automobiles from Africa to get to this show. Is that right?
Absolutely, Eric. Running through the airport. I'm powering through on about 3 hours of sleep after an overnight flight, so I hope you go easy on me. Oh,
we absolutely will, of course. It is an absolute pleasure to have you. So you're Vice President Global Sales, is that right?
That's correct.
Could you just give us a wee update or a wee sort of introduction for anybody who's been living in a cave for the last 5 years and doesn't know who 3T Energy is, and just let us know what you guys do.
Yeah, for sure. And thanks for having us on, Eric. It's a real pleasure to join. First time for me with OGV Live. Yeah, I'm at 3T Energy Group. We're a leading training competency workforce management services provider. And what we're about, our essence is leveraging technology, to transform training. The three sort of pillars that we work on is training, technology, and transformation, and that's the 3 T's that make up our name. We are a global player in the space, and we've grown to be the UK's largest training provider in the energy sector, both across the oil and gas business, renewables, and also more recently in power generation and utilities. We've got 4 principal organisations within the 3T Energy Group, and we have our training organisation, traditional training organisation, which is AIS SurviveX. We have our simulation technology business, drilling systems. We have our learning technologies and workforce software business known as 3T Transform, and our utilities and construction training organisation called UCT, which was a very recent acquisition into the 3T Energy Group. And collectively as 3T, we offer the highest impact learning to the energy sector and a wider safety critical industries that we serve, and offer a very wide range of services within that training, competency and learning technologies space. A true global business. We've got offices in Houston, we've got training operations in South America, we've got offices in the Middle East, and we do a lot of work in Africa and Asia as well. So yeah, that's 3T in a nutshell.
Very good. How many people have just gone, right, that's what the 3 T's are? The penny's just dropped. Thank you, Gavin. The article that opens this month's magazine, Kevin Franklin, your CEO, opens the article by saying that 3T's combination of training technology is creating a positive transformation across the energy sector. How does he mean? How is this creating a positive transformation across the energy sector?
I think it means it in a lot of ways, to be honest, Eric. When we say positive transformation, we could be talking about the individual delegates that attend our training centres, so the people who are experiencing learning and experiencing a different way of how learning is delivered and received. We could be talking about our clients in terms of the way that we're able to support the services that we provide to them by augmenting them with different ways of delivery and different ways of management that try and achieve their objectives as a business, and make sure that they've got high-performing teams. Learning is evolving. We need to stay attuned to that. we've got to meet learners on the level that they're at. You know, we've got a huge age swing in our organisation from in our industry, sorry, from the very youngest entrants into the organisation to people who are reaching the end of their careers. And the way people learn today from the younger generation coming out of education now is very different, you know, even to how I learned when I left school 20 odd years ago. Practical training continues to be a very key component of learning, and there's many things that cannot be replaced. I think you'd find it difficult to replicate escaping from a helicopter underwater without escaping from a helicopter underwater. But there is definitely ways that we can augment the way that training is delivered using technology, and that creates that positive transformation. I once did a sort of a talk at an event like this, a live event, and it was entitled PlayStation to Workstation. And what it was about was, you know, I always personalize it because I've got a son, he's 12 years old. I can hear him stomping around upstairs because obviously they're on holiday. And when I see him learn, he learns so differently to the way that I learned at school, and certainly the way that an older generation would have learned. They're very much attuned with technology. They learn in bite-sized chunks. If you ask my son, one of his favorite expressions is "search it up," because if he wants to learn something, he'll go to YouTube and he'll watch a 2 or 3 minute video, and that'll give him the information that he needs. And it's that kind of instant gratification that they seek out in terms of learning. So it's our job as a training organisation to be attuned to that and understand the evolution of industry, the evolution of technology within the industry, and how we embed that into the training that we deliver, but making sure that we meet all of the different needs along the spectrum. And evidence consistently shows that if people are learning in different hyper-realistic environments and using things like micro-learning, it really helps embed learning, and that's great for supplementing within training programs and that kind of thing to make sure that they're delivered in a transformational way. And just one final point on it, you know, we practice what we preach as a training organisation. We are a people training provider, and we deliver training to hundreds of thousands of people, and we embed technology into that. So as an example, we've introduced VR into our heli-death firefighting training programs to support how the learners experience that program. We've done things sort of kind of Sky Sports style analysis where you're showing people where they should have been and moving them on the screen, and it just helps with the learner experience and their retention of the knowledge that they're there to receive.
Very good, very good. You've mentioned this sort of march into digital, which is really helping you. The front cover of the mag, as you just said there, has got the lovely VR headset. But you're also doing some interesting work on a topic that we've discussed many times on this show, but perhaps in different with a different sort of slant on it before. But you're doing a lot of work in digital twins, right?
Yeah.
How is that being fed into training these days?
Yeah, I mean, incidentally, that's partly the reason that I was down in Senegal, because we've been working on a major project with BP since the beginning of the inception of that project, and what we developed for that program for the BP Tortue project in Mauritania and Senegal was a digital twin of the entire asset infrastructure, which incorporated an FPSO, an FLNG, an offshore hub and living quarters. And we were trying to achieve an objective which would give what BP described an immersion in Tortue prior to the crew mobilizing to the project. So all of the operations and maintenance crew attended a training program with us in Aberdeen. It was a 2-week residential training program, and it was a truly blended learning program where they were receiving a mixture of theoretical training, lecture style, on safety critical operating systems, startup procedures, those types of things. So they'd learn the specific operating parameters of a slope catcher or a gas dew pointing system, and they'd learn the walk in the line scenarios. They would use P&ID designs to follow the flow of hydrocarbons, and then they'd go into a digital twin that actually reinforce their learning in a fully realistic environment, and actually be able to practice operations, orientate themselves around the assets, and you know, the feedback of the use of that type of technology has been absolutely phenomenal. It was really great for me visiting some industry stakeholders down in Senegal, government ministries and bodies that have been set up for the oil and gas industry, and everyone was talking about this digital twin, and it was ours. You know, we'd done it, and the crew from BP, who I've had the pleasure of getting to know quite well because they all came through this training program, they're all like, this is the best program we've ever been on, because we're really pushing the boundaries of the use of technology and learning programs, yeah, I think they're a key component of the future of learning from a major asset perspective, especially if you've got a new big plant or asset being constructed, and you need to get people to understand its operations prior to it being constructed, which was the case with the Tortue program.
Fantastic. You've just answered my next question, because I read in the article about your colleague Dominic, who's joined you, to focus on blended learning solutions and training, or blended solutions. And I'm like, what on earth is blended solutions? How does that work in training? But you're talking about all those different methods to train all being incorporated together: digital, physical, more analog, and all those different. That's the blend, right?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, delighted to have Dominic on board. He's been a real asset in addition to the team. Good understanding of all of the major projects that are going on around the world, and how we might be able to work with those companies that are constructing those projects in developing a learning approach. You know, what it's about, blended learning is about producing a learning program that meets the exact learning outcomes and objectives of that program or project, and using a range of delivery styles to maximize the engagement of the candidates and transfer the knowledge in line with what needs to be done. It's a mixture of learning styles. It's not just about VR. It's a mixture of all of the different things and the tools that are available to you as a training provider, to make sure that you're given the best possible learning program that hits all of those notes. So it could be lecture, traditional style PowerPoints, animations, fly-throughs of assets, you know, the digital twins, e-learning. There could be things you do in pre and post the course to help with you know, knowledge retention through micro learning. So, you know, our approach is to go in and listen to the client, listen to what they're trying to achieve, listen to the challenges, the specific challenges of the project, and go away and interpret all of that information and produce a program that uses the tools that are most effective. And digital tools should only be used where appropriate.
Yeah.
It might be appropriate in many circumstances that you do a practical training program, and we just need to recognise that, as I said before, digital can't replace everything, where the blended piece becomes much more important when you're developing these types of programs. And we've been doing stuff pan-industry. We did a blended learning program for a battery plant that was being manufactured, a gigafactory. And you know, the challenges that people, when they're building these factories, often in deprived areas, there's no skills, there's no people who've ever worked in that kind of environment before, and you've got to be able to impart that knowledge ready for them starting or commissioning the projects and getting going.
Very good. I think that probably answered Soren Weiss-Hartmann's question, talking about how can digital tools help compensate for the loss of face-to-face. I think that hopefully has covered that. We have a question that's come in from Greg Douglas. Has any of your technology looked to incorporate learning in the workflow, such as digital coaches to support workers and as and when they need training?
Yeah, I mean, our one of our VPs, Paul Knowles, no idea if he's on here or not, but he's really passionate about this kind of stuff. Is how can you use the digital twin as almost like an ecosystem within the whole operational sort of development of people. So as an asset becomes live, how can you feed other information into that? That's helping feed that back into the organisation to plan ahead for other learning, or if they want to do something like, plan for a change out of a piece of equipment or whatever. One of the things that we have done with BP is kept the VR live. So you build a digital twin, which is at a moment in time, but it's ever changing. They're going to change equipment. They might have to make some modifications. So we can feed into the design engines to be able to keep an iterative process to keep it alive. But we want to continue to push the boundaries of what's possible, whether that's directly as 3T or through partners.
Yeah, sure. Very, very good. Excellent. Hope that answers your question, Greg. We've had another lovely question come in from Annabelle Sal. Hello, Annabelle. How are you? Good to have you with us. How important is it to tailor training to different cultures, etc., when working and training in different countries and regions? I had a whole list of questions for you, Gavin, but our audience are providing better ones, so we're going to go with these.
Happy to take it. And hello, Annabelle. It's hugely important. As I said, I've just been in Senegal, and they speak French. It's a completely different culture. Highly educated people down in Senegal, very used to technology. That might not be the case elsewhere, and you've got to make sure that when you're engaging with your clients, when you're looking to scope programs, is you have to understand these dynamics. It's, when Dominic joined, we've got a presentation about how we approach this stuff, and that's exactly one of the things that we cover: is understand the culture, understand the demographics, understand education, language, so that we can tailor that program to suit. What was really interesting about the BP program, I visited the first program in Aberdeen in January last year, and in that program there was a massive mixture of people. There was males, females, young people, older people. There was people from different religions, different ethnicities. And I saw some people looking at this VR technology with serious trepidation, like, what is this alien piece of equipment in front of me? But I came back towards the end of the program, and a young female from Mauritania who'd never seen any of this, she was an expert. So it's just about helping people get used to the way things are done, and adapting the style to suit all of the different audiences.
Thank you, Gavin, and thanks to Annabelle for that excellent question. Jumping back into the ones that I prepared for you, you see yourself as, and I'm guessing going back in time, maybe training providers wouldn't have realised this, but you see yourself as part of the whole net zero journey that we're all on, right? How does your part in net zero unpack?
Yeah, listen, we're here to support our clients. The industry is evolving; it continuously evolves, and we have to make sure that we're there to meet the needs of those clients. We have continued to evolve our service offering. We were one of the first entrants into the wind training market, for example, back in 2014. So we've always kind of had our ear to the ground in terms of what the needs are, and how we can address them. We always keep up to date with what changes are happening in the industry, and the net zero piece goes beyond what we kind of often think of as oil and gas into wind. There's also that, how does that wind get on shore in terms of the electrification, the grid. There's a lot of work going on around how the national grid changes its infrastructure, and we've got a massive lack of skilled labour to do overhead lines and things like that. So it's areas where that's partly why we made the acquisition of UCT, because they were big into that space, and we can bring our additional capability around blended learning and that kind of thing. Andy Rodden, when he was talking about some of the things ETZ have done, too many acronyms. The things like the skills boot camps, we're a provider of funded learning, so we're an approved government provider of funded learning, and we do a lot of that type of thing. So green skills boot camps, so we're accessing funding on behalf of our clients to allow them to help workers transition. So we've been doing that in the northeast of England, in Newcastle and Teesside. And we've got capability in the northwest of England, and also down in London, where we can get pots of funding, and we can go to our clients, and as they're trying to transition people to work on say oil and gas projects into wind projects, we're there to support that with the funding and the training that's needed to do it, as well as taking some of the I talked about the digital twin piece. We've built digital twins of wind turbines as well as the battery plants. So it's all about using all of the different tools you've got and going and engaging with those industries and helping them understand how we can play a part in that. The other thing is we have strong links with industry, both through clients directly, but also partner bodies, particularly recruitment companies, and AGR on this panel today as well. And we've got a strong link with AGR in terms of how do we support them, get people in employment and have the skills that they need to get there. And that's a key link between training the industry and the people who are getting people in the jobs.
Very good. And as you say, we'll hear from Ben Herriot at AGR later on. We've come to the end of our allotted time, and it's such a fantastically rich and diverse business that you're in, and 3T are at the leading edge of it. We could probably do an hour on this. But if anybody wants to know more, you and I are going to be sharing a stage at some point in September. We have got something special coming up. The summit, in fact, I'm going to put a graphic up if that's okay. It's going to cover both of our faces. Here we are. There we go. So on the 4th of September, the beginning of Offshore Europe Week, we have got the Future of Training Summit with 3T. Exclusive panels, some of the group's leading voices, special industry guests, and a real look into the future of training. Very exciting, and you're going to be part of this, right?
I am indeed. Very much looking forward. I think it's going to be a great event. We've got a lot of clients coming, industry partners, and we've got some exciting announcements to make at the event, which will be good for the people who are there, and understand where 3T is trying to take training with technology.
Very good, very good. I'm looking for the Eventbrite link. We'll put that in the chat because you can go into Eventbrite and you can sign up for a place and get yourself along to the OGV tap room and OGV podium on the 4th of September for that Future of Training Summit with 3T Energy. And Gavin will be there. For now, thank you so much for joining us, especially since you've had planes, trains and automobiles to get here, but you made it. I have a sneaky suspicion that you're sitting there with your joggies on and that lovely suit jacket and shirt. But don't spoil the illusion. Gavin, it's an absolute pleasure to spend some time with you today. Thanks to everyone for asking those amazing questions. We will catch up with you later on.
Thank you very much, Eric.
Thanks, man. Bye-bye. So, wasn't that great? I'm going to give you a wee bit of an update because we started talking about events there. I'm just going to continue. Obviously, July's coming to a close, and my colleagues next door, it is like a haven of industry next door with my colleagues at OGV Energy who are focusing on all the big events that are coming up. Offshore Europe, just around the corner. 4 years in the making, 50 years of OE celebration, the biggest UK event on the calendar. And OGV Energy have their biggest presence to date with 144 square metre pavilion in Hall 2, partnering with our clients to showcase some of the best engineering technology and innovation in the energy industry. There's still some space available, so if you're sitting out there thinking, do you know what, we'd really like to be offshore Europe, drop us a line. There's still some space available on our pavilions. And the man to talk to, I'm just going to put his details up right now. He's going to kill me for giving out his phone number, is Andy Mackay. If you're sitting there thinking, we should really be offshore energy, it's going to be a big show and we need to get ourselves there, drop Andy Mackay a note or give him a call. In fact, I think I can hear the phone ringing now next door. And Andy will talk you through what options are available. We've also partnered with SPE and we're hosting a networking golf day at Newborough on the 4th of September. We've got about 150 energy professionals coming to play 18 holes and enjoy some refreshments at the OGV tap room in Newborough. Again, there's very limited space for that, so if you're interested, head over to Eventbrite or give the guys a phone. I'll put Andy's contacts back up there. And then, of course, we've got our own drinks reception on the Wednesday evening at the OGV podium. We've got some live music and some real good surprises in store. Everyone's welcome. We hope to see you there. While we're on the topic of shows, let's move from the largest in the UK to the largest in the world. Let's talk about ADIPEC. It's been moved. It's now a month earlier than normal. It's kicking off on the 2nd of October. And we, OGV, have plenty of opportunities available for you if you're looking to attend, from stand space in our pavilion, speaking opportunities, and of course, another golf day. We're doing a golf day at Yas Links. Although, as Andy's put in this little note, we can't guarantee sunshine for Aberdeen. We can pretty much guarantee it for Yas Links. So reach out. I'll put Andy's contact details up there. If you're thinking about any of those shows and, will we, won't we, talk through the options with Andy and he will see about sorting you. Andy Mackay at ogvenergy.co.uk. Thank you very much. Now it's time to move on to our industry spotlight section of the show. I'm going to welcome, let me get this right first. We're going to welcome Andy Powrie. How are you doing, Andy?
I'm very well, yourself?
It's absolutely great to have you with us, Andy from Arnlea. We've got Ben Herriot from AGR, and we have Rama Sharma from XODUS. Hello, everyone. How are you doing?
Hi, everyone. Hello.
Yeah, it's great to have you all with us. Did you manage to catch any of our previous guests that were on there?
Yeah. All really insightful.
Yeah, it was absolutely. You got a shout out and everything, Ben. You really did. It was excellent. Andy, I'm going to come to you first, if that's okay.
Yeah, no problem at all.
So you're the COO at Arnlea Systems. For those who don't know, can you give us a wee bit of a summary as to what Arnlea do?
Sure. Well, we're a software provider primarily in the energy sector. We focus on inspection and maintenance mainly, primarily AIDC-enabled technologies, so RFID, barcode, QR code, and things like that. So we are global. Well, our clients are global. We follow our clients, so we have a global reach, I should say. And related to the topic we're talking about today in training, so we do global training as well. So that's probably why I'm here with you and talking today.
Yes, it is. Absolutely. Very astute of you. I noticed in your article that was written by, I think it was published by...
Megan, yeah.
It was Megan, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Cracking article. It caught my eye because you spoke about something that rings true with me. It starts with an interesting conundrum around, everything moving to digital, the need to be completely up to date with all of your software as a company. The company hires in someone to come in and upgrade all your software or replace it, and then they leave a big thumping user manual on the reception desk, and we're all a bit stumped. So that whole issue around software training, you're approaching that slightly differently, aren't you?
Yeah, so things changed during COVID. So deploying software and engaging with end users was quite difficult in COVID, and we did a lot of online training sessions and online deployments. And because of the way we're interacting with people now, it was mentioned about blended learning earlier. So we have a blended approach, as it were. So we are still visiting our clients globally, and we're doing some online training, and then in certain instances we're doing both for the same clients. So I noticed in the section earlier there was a question I was reading about: is the human interaction lost with online training and things like that? And I'm old school. I work in technology, but I do think looking someone in the eye when you're dealing with them is really important. So we've gone back to that, if you like. So we did a lot of online training, but now we're encouraging clients where we can to sit with us to go through things. So whilst we're talking about blended, there's blended in terms of the media, as it were, but blended in terms of the environment as well. So we work in industrial areas, as the most people on the call, I guess. So we have classroom sessions, online sessions, but we're actually now moving into a lot more on-site sessions where we're at the coalface, as it were. Literally going through inspection protocols with people, understanding their business processes. So rather than just saying this is our software, this is how you use it, we're asking people what they're doing in their day job, how do you need to use our software, and what benefits can add to you, and then running through the process with them at the point of execution, essentially. So we're finding that stays with people a lot more, because if we're doing an online session, they'll go through, and sometimes it's very difficult to maintain people's focus when you're a million miles away. But when you're actually going through their day-to-day processes with them, any training you give them kind of sticks with them for the long term, essentially. And we get a lot less questions post-event than we do if we're not sat with them. So that has a burden, I guess, with getting people to travel all over the world to support these activities and what have you. But the reality is, the more time we invest up front and the better the quality of the training, the less time we have to invest latterly in terms of support. That's not to say we don't support our customers and we disappear and run off into the distance, never to be seen again. But it just means that we can focus on more pressing activities as opposed to revisiting training. Don't get me wrong, revisiting training is really important because things change, our softwares change, the processes in the industry change, and legislation changes as well. And we are aligned to a lot of legislation. So there's the initial deployment, but then there's also the follow-on afterwards. But what we're finding is, and it might not be true for everyone, but it's certainly true for us, that if we sit with someone in a very close knit proximity, then they're getting more benefit from it. Subsequently, we're getting more benefit from it because it makes our life and job a lot easier.
Very good, very good. And I completely agree with you. Having been on the receiving end of software training, if you know a bit about how this works, why it's supposed to work that way, it's a lot different from just being told, jump on there, that's the software that we use. If you're actually seeing it and thinking about this slightly differently, I understand this because that has to happen because of this. Yes, I get that. And I totally get the whole idea of that little bit of, accentuated knowledge must make it easier when the phone rings when you've got a problem because people are a little bit more, they're trained, right?
Yes,
Absolutely.
It limits the types of support you have to provide as well. So you get into the real issues, as it were, because nothing's perfect. But if people are conversant with what they're using and they're having a challenge, then we can really get to the solution quite quickly. But if we're having to go through the educational piece to really get to the crux of what the problem is, then that can be quite time consuming, especially if you're remote again. So we try and be as close to our clients as we can, but sometimes the support function is quite a remote operation. So having people who are much more conversant with the software helps with the support function long term as well.
Very good. Thank you so much. Just before Megan mentions Nexar.
Yes.
Tell us a wee bit about that, if you will.
Yeah, of course. So Nexar is I'll call it our latest iteration of the product. So we've been around for 25, 26 years, something like that. So we've always had industry-specific software. And Nexar basically is the culmination of all 25 years of our products in one product, essentially. So inspection and maintenance, supply chain management, and materials management, all under one product, essentially. So we've moved from the typical on-premise solution to a SaaS delivered solution. So that is what Nexar is, essentially. So primarily inspection and maintenance, focusing on EX integrity, but also more inspection and maintenance regimes, just trying to make it broad scale for everyone.
Very good, very good. Andy, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome, no problem at all.
Insight in there, that's tremendous.
Thank you.
I'm going to go now to Rama. Welcome.
Hello. It's lovely to be here today.
It's lovely to have you with us. This rarely happens, but we have this situation today where you're actually the photograph that headlines your lovely article. This one, you're actually in it, which is great. Great. And you're talking about a wonderful topic, which is very interesting and very broad-reaching. We read this month that XODUS has joined a UK leading programme supporting professionals returning to the STEM workforce following a career break. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
So the programme is called STEM Returners, and it's really there to try and help industry address that skills gap. And obviously we're seeing it within our company. We're seeing lots of new projects and there's not enough people with the right skills to do work on the project. So there are people out there who have worked in the industry or worked in a similar industry. They have the skills, but not the confidence really to get back into the workplace. And what STEM Returners does is hopefully a way to gently ease you back into the workplace and you can keep using your skills and hopefully get a job out of it at the end of the day.
Very good, very good. And is this something for like cross industry, or is this, because I know that at XODUS you do some wonderful engineering, right? Could you just, for those who don't know, could you just give us a wee reminder about the kind of work that XODUS does?
Yeah, so XODUS, we are an energy consultancy and global, just like some of the other guests, actually. We're based in the US, Middle East, Australia, Japan, obviously in the UK, we have quite a large presence here. And we also cover a range of sectors. So we cover oil and gas, renewables, hydrogen, and also carbon capture. So a lot of our projects now, we're moving away from traditional and more into renewables, and our renewables side is growing. And what we're seeing is that skills gap. You have to keep up with it. While the skills are the same, they're very transitional. We can move people around, but that knowledge only comes with the projects. So we when you are working on these projects, you pick up knowledge fairly quickly, but we don't have enough people with that knowledge. So what we've done on many of our projects, we've got experts who are within these industries, and then we can transfer people from other areas, traditional oil and gas facilities, for example, transfer these people to the projects, and hopefully they pick up some more knowledge and get that confidence you need to grow.
Brilliant. And is that why, with that in mind, why XODUS sees STEM returners as a really good fit?
Oh, it does, yeah. So I think the way I see XODUS itself is a very caring company, just to bring people in gently, very diverse as well. Really proud of how we work. And when you do come back, we've actually put in 5 new job offers out there for STEM returners. So there's 5 positions, engineering positions, currently being advertised. So anybody who has been on a career break, for example, and not sure if you should go back to work, this is a good way to test it. You haven't got that confidence, you've got that engineering, it might not have been in the last year or two, you haven't worked for a few years, but it's a really gentle way, and XODUS are very supportive, and they gently ease you into a working environment. You can go hybrid working, and I myself, I don't work Fridays. I've not done for 11 years, and I don't ever wish to work a Friday, but it really gives you that work-life balance, and the company is very supportive of you working at that, and there's lots of different options as well within the company for you to work. It's really, I think what you need is a safe space so that you can practice your skills, enhance your skills, and grow from there. And that's what we'd like to see is that skills gap being closed and putting back into the industry too.
Fantastic. And I love the comment in the article from your colleague, Natalie Besti. Natalie says there's a number of roles required to meet the UK's net zero targets and goals, and those number of roles are growing, and there's a hidden workforce out there that's as yet uncovered and untapped into. So that speaks really strongly to that, right?
That does indeed. So that workforce, that hidden workforce, is really the people out there who may not have, who may have taken a career break, or may have moved jobs and just didn't really go back, or been on long-term leave for other reasons. You may be a carer, so there's lots of different reasons why you're not working, and STEM returners is another way to gently ease you back. It could still let you carry on with what you were doing outside, but also go back, and you can choose to spend more time in a working environment if you wish. And it is that hidden workforce. Every single person is valuable. We don't have enough skills, so we can't train up everyone from the beginning. We need to use the existing workforce out there. And all hands on deck, really. We have a global emergency, and we really do need to help with all the projects out there. And we heard from Andy Rodden about the various projects that we had that we're looking at. And I think you do need the people to work on these projects, and the knowledge will infiltrate once you are working on there. It's the skills that get you up and running and moving the projects forward, but that knowledge will come with the experts. So we shouldn't be scared of not having that knowledge. I think that's what it is. It's use your skills.
Yeah, superb. So XODUS are no strangers to this whole position of supporting workforces, particularly the workforce of tomorrow, because lots of people will understand X Academy and understand what that's all about. For those that don't, could you tell us a little more?
Yeah, so X Academy was set up a couple of years ago now, and it is a place where we're transforming skills of graduates, recent graduates, or also those that are early professionals. So early on in their career, not quite sure what they're doing. So we take these individuals and it's really fast-tracked learning. You're put into real-life projects, projects that wouldn't typically be funded. Maybe some of the projects that Andy Rodden was talking about, out there, they're cutting-edge projects and learning, and we're working with some of our partners. So the whole X Academy itself has been supported by ETZ and ScotWind Consortium, and the ScotWind Consortium comprises BP and NBW as well. And just like ETZ, it's a non-profit organization, and all the projects that we work on, all the funding is taken back in to enhance the training, maybe work on other projects that again wouldn't come to market but are great ideas, but we need to accelerate some of these projects, and the funding being put by the government as well to some of these projects. Well, hopefully some of these will become reality and help meet that net zero target we're trying to achieve.
Superb. Thank you so much. Just a comment that came in from Darren Nichol. I think Darren's talking about STEM returners. Scottish Power have run a similar programme for years. It's excellent, and I was part of it. I recommend it. So there you go. The proof's in the pudding. These things do actually work. Rama, it's an absolute pleasure to have you with us. Your first time on the show today. And we hope that we can have you back at some point to find out how all this is developing, and maybe even talk about decommissioning and facilities and things like that.
Oh yeah, my day job.
Your day job, yeah, exactly. It's been an absolute pleasure. We will catch up with you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ben Herriot from AGR, Global Sales Director. You were nodding in strong agreement with a lot of what you were hearing there. Can you tell us a little bit about AGR?
Yeah, of course, no problem at all, Eric. So Advanced Global Recruitment, we specialise in the supply of personnel to the international energy market. It covers a wide-ranging variety of personnel, sectors, etc. You'd probably be thinking, why is a recruitment agency on a skills and training OGV Live? To be honest, the reason for this is on the back of COVID, we actually established a new division here within AGR, proudly named AGRT. And much like Gavin was saying earlier, we've established some relationships and partnerships with training providers across the globe, not just here in the UK, but internationally as well. And the main reason for that is to really for us to try and give back to the industry. We've noticed, as Ram had said, a skill shortage across all sectors that we deliver in, and it's really trying to get past that and trying to get not just new blood into the industry, but recertifying. Again, Ram, I touched on it, and this is why I was nodding in agreement, is that we've lost a lot of knowledge over the course of the last, I'm not even going to say 3-4 years, probably surpassed that into around about 2015. And it's really trying to not just educate people, but try and bring them back into the industry. And how do we go about doing that? You look at the situation in the world at the moment. We're on the back of COVID-19. We've got inflation to think about. The cost of living is going through the roof, and certificates aren't cheap. It's a highly regulated industry that we're working in, and a lot of people simply don't have the funds at this moment in time in order to obtain their certificates, whether they're looking to go offshore or upskill or recertify, whatever it may be. So we identified this quickly on the back of COVID, and along with our clients, have really developed AGRT to become probably one of our fastest growing divisions within AGR over the course of the last 10 years, and that certainly I've been in the business. So it's been a very exciting time, very busy. But yeah, I can certainly agree to a lot of the comments that have been made so far.
I love that. When you think about pivoting and diversifying. So a recruitment company is getting a lot of pressure from their clients to fill roles, and they can't find people with the skills to match these roles. So let's go out and train people. Let's go out and train people. 100%. We know what they need to be trained in. We know the types of people we're looking for. We'll train them, and we'll be able to get them jobs. I love it. It's all working together. So last year you diversified this service. How many people have the proof's in the pudding? How many people have you put through this?
So far we're over 600 delegates that have gone through any one of our training courses. Wow. So like I said, it's been a huge success. I mean, it can include things like green hand programs, specifically for the drilling industry. We've got an ROV training program, like I said, upskilling and recertifying. So we're trying a whole host of new initiatives to really push this forward.
Superb. Do you focus on any particular areas of sources for the people that you're putting through this and trying to get into jobs? Is there any particular pools of people that you like to focus on?
Yeah, I mean, we've got a very strong CRM or database for everyone. We're over 70,000 personnel already registered with AGR, so we have got a very strong pool of candidates already. That being said, like we're talking about getting new blood into the industry, those people aren't registered with AGR. So we are going into different market segments and looking to try and bring people and start to train them. So people from things like ex-Marine, ex-military, even so things as further education, people who are just leaving university, etc. And it's funny because I was actually a part of one of the OGV lives over in Houston. I was there luckily to be there in person at that point, and I was talking about how do we make oil and gas specifically, I suppose renewables as well, attractive again. It comes with some stigma, and if you look over the last 5 years, would you look at a position and say, is it a sustainable job? It goes through cycles. You could certify, spend all this money, in 5 years you could be looking for a job again. But the one thing I would say, and anyone that I do say to people at this moment in time, is that over the 10 years that I've been with AGR, right now is the best time to get into the industry. We have a lot of our clients be incredibly open into our Green Ham program specifically, our ROV training program as well. And this is making a huge difference to not only us, but the people that are looking to get into the industry.
Very good, very good. You've been in the business for a long time. You know your stuff. You've placed a lot of people, and now you're taking this new view on doing this. What is your advice to those that are maybe sitting on this, watching this, looking for a new job, or perhaps looking to move into a new sector or try something different?
Yeah, I think, in my honest opinion, I think be as proactive as possible. If you are a job seeker and someone looking for work, a lot of recruiters tend to use LinkedIn on, I'm not even going to say a daily basis, probably an hourly basis, if not minutely. Keep your LinkedIn up to date, but more often than that, go and speak to people, get people on the phone recruitment agencies, phone clients, update your CV, keep them updated as well, because you can't wait for opportunities, but the more active you are, the more times we see your name, they're going to spring to mind straight away. I think the other thing I would highly recommend at this moment in time, one thing that we've seen that's dramatically increased people's opportunity in terms of obtaining employment is by carrying emergency response certification, mainly within the drilling division or drilling sector, I should say. So, for example, if we have roustabouts, floor hands, crane operators carrying things like offshore emergency response team members, team leaders, it's really helping with our client station bills. And you'd be amazed at how much of a difference that can make. We actually ran an analysis, and you're 33% more likely to obtain work by holding these certificates than someone that doesn't. Right. So going away and getting these courses are not only helping you find work, but also helping our clients cover their station bill and ultimately you securing a position.
Fantastic. If you like what you've heard from Andy on software training, from Rama on STEM returners and X Academy, or from Ben on getting a job and taking this new approach to working with them to get training, please reach out to these lovely people. You can find them on LinkedIn. Their names and their companies are there. You cannot escape. You cannot escape. We've got your contact details now. So reach out to them and extend the conversation. They would love that. And that's one of the reasons that we do this. It happens just about every show. We get a lovely note back from one of our guests who said someone reached out because of what I said. And that just makes the whole thing worthwhile. Andy, Rama, Ben, thank you so much for joining us today. We wish you all the best in what you're doing. And hopefully we can catch up with you in a little while for an update on how it's all going. Okay?
Thanks
very much, Eric.
Thank you so much, guys.
Yes.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
We are heading into the last part of our show. It's time to head into our Market Watch section of the show. So please welcome Teresa Wilkie from Westwood Global Energy Group. How are you today, Teresa?
I'm very well, Eric. Thanks. How are you?
Fabulous. What a lovely range of guests we've had on today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tremendous.
Really good discussion.
We've also got Diveena, Danabalan, who's either her camera's not working. She was supposed, I can't actually get her on the screen for some reason. Diveena, are you there? Yeah, there you are.
There I am.
There you are. We got you here. So we love this part of the show. We get lots of great feedback from our viewers when we have either you or your colleagues on from Westwood and EIC to give us the market update. So if we could, Teresa, I'd like to start with you. Would you like me to put up some slides by any chance?
Yes, I would. Thank you.
I can do that right now.
Lovely.
Here we go. Over to you.
Excellent. Thank you. So yeah, I'm going to flip back to the rig market again this month. So I think in the news recently we've been hearing a lot about what's happening in terms of the recovery in the global jackup and drill ship segments, but there hasn't been a whole lot published about semi-subs, despite some actually really interesting developments there recently. So Westwood actually recently published an insight on a specific part of the semi-sub market, and that is the sort of the top tier 6th generation harsh environment market. And I'm going to just highlight a couple of the findings from that report and on these slides here as well. So this slide here, basically what we're showing is that in just 6 months, committed utilization of the marketed 6th gen harsh environment semi fleet has actually jumped 14%. And is now completely sold out at 100% utilization. So that's a figure that we've not recorded for this fleet since February 2014. So that's pretty significant. So this fleet is currently made up of 27 active rigs, all of which are either on hire now or have a contract starting in the future. So that's actually one of the most concerning things for this segment is the lack of alternative supply. So there really is only 3 cold stacked units, or that could be, reactivated, and just 4 new builds in shipyards as well. And one of the latter is a rig called the North Dragon, which has already been secured for a long-term campaign in Mexico. So the remaining 3 units under construction are all being bid on current tenders in the market. So we may well actually see those enter the market over the coming years as well. So for those operators that are looking to secure a unit, the earliest free and clear availability, assuming all sort of options are taken up, appears to be late Q1 2024. However, there are several tenders currently out in the market, so you could well see that availability slip out further quite soon as well. And there is, of course, potential for some sublet well slots between operators as well, and that is something that we commonly start to see in very tight markets such as this as well. And next slide, please, Eric.
There we are.
Thank you. That's it. So this one here is showing awarded demand for these types of rigs over the past decade and where that demand has come from, and also the average contract duration for these as well. So although Northwest Europe still contributes, the lion's share of demand with around 6 to 8% of contracted days awarded this year so far, several of these rigs are being continuously confirmed for new work or extensions in other regions. And I mentioned this on the last OGV Live, actually, when we were discussing the North Sea market lately. So one of these other hot new regions is now Australia, where Transocean is going to relocate 2 of its Cat D assets for 3 new long-term assignments. And then you've also got places like Mexico, China, and Namibia, which have also contributed considerable demand this far in 2023, and are all expected to remain pretty critical for the fleet going forward as well. So as you can see, the average duration of these campaigns is also looking pretty good. So still slightly behind last year's average, but really not that far off at all. And then just the last slide there,
Very
Eric.
good, will do. There we go.
Thank you. So how has that, sort of tighter market been affecting day rates then? So you can see from these 2 charts here, day rates for these rigs remain pretty strong in comparison to most rig types during the last oil price crash and the pandemic, especially in Norway. However, apart from a few outlier deals that you'll be able to see on that first chart, they have struggled to surpass that sort of mid $300,000 a day since 2015. But this is now all starting to change. So companies like Transocean and Odfjell Drilling have been especially successful at driving day rates higher for these assets this year and securing new deals with rates reported as high as $484,000 a day for work offshore Australia. Now, in addition to the very tight supply I mentioned, the demand outlook for these high-spec rigs looks very bright. And recently there has been a wave of multi-year requirements brought to the market. And that's from the likes of Equinor and Vår Energy in Norway, which we believe actually represents this sort of recognition of their recognition, I should say, of thinking availability, this fear of missing out on getting the right assets for their drilling campaigns, and most worryingly, I think rising day rates, which can affect those sort of overall project economics as well. And this is a valid concern. So Westwood's global offshore drilling day rate forecast suggests day rates in this segment are set to continue their escalation over the coming years. And that's due to demand for harsh environment rigs rising, coupled with a lack of new build assets or reactivation candidates, which I already mentioned.
Knowing this part of the world as much as you do, realistically, how high do you think these day rates could go?
Yeah, so that's such a good question. So, I mean, in the past, we have seen, I think, rates go as high as sort of $675,000 a day for semis. And that was in 2012, so really at the peak of the market. We do actually forecast day rates, like I said, within Westwood, and over the next 5 years, we're predicting those rates to continue in that direction. I'm not saying they're going to hit that high again, but of course, when day rates go too high, it starts to affect the overall project economics, for example, of a development. And then when they go too high, it can dampen the demand appetite for drilling. So, of course, all of that factors into this as well.
And you mentioned cold stack rigs coming back out to work, getting back into the supply chain, reactivated and all that. Do you have any insight on how much it costs in 2023 to take a cold stack rig and reactivate it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, of course, it all depends on a lot of different factors, such as the age of the rig, how long it's been stacked, what sort of preservation's been done to it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But we've heard ranges from anything from 40 or 50 million dollars to over 100 million for a semi-sub. So, it's not a cheap solution, really, by any means.
As usual, Teresa, great insight. I'm just going to put that off. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Please reach out to Teresa, RigLogix at Westwood Global Energy Group if you'd like to extend that conversation further. Thank you so much for that. That was brilliant. I think it might be. I'm just gonna mute your mic a wee second. I'm not sure, but we're getting feedback coming from someone. I'll try and find it. We'll work it out. It's no problem. Diveena, we've kept you hanging there for the whole show, and you're our last speaker of the day. What are EIC? What is EIC seeing in terms of global O&G oil and gas project activity? What's the latest?
Well, I mean, it was great seeing from Teresa, firstly, how well the rig market's doing, because we're seeing pretty much the same patterns happening in oil and gas just globally at the moment. So I think it's not lost on anyone, I believe, in the audience here, that the market's been booming pretty much region to region. It's obviously some variations, but according to our RFID data, we are seeing a return to projects gaining full financing and moving into construction phase now. And it appears to be because it is easier to get full funding for these types of projects, I guess, relative to renewables and transition technologies like wind and hydrogen, for instance. And I just thought there's been so much activity lately that I would maybe briefly touch on two key markets. So maybe one, which is like Norway, and the other of which would be Indonesia, because there's been so much activity. So I guess like really quickly on Norway, it's obviously our next door neighbor. It's had multiple oil and gas projects in various stages of development, including Breidablikk, Yggdrasil and Tyrving. And we've seen the largest discovery in the region in 10 years, recently made at the Carmen prospect this month by DNO and partners. And of course, in June, the government also gave approval for 19 fields to be developed, with an expected spend of over $18.5 billion US. So that is incredibly promising. No, exactly. Cheers to that. It definitely shows that Norway is considering, I guess, its short to medium term future with regards to oil and gas. And there is clearly a clear project pipeline in place for that for the foreseeable future, which is obviously good news for energy security for Europe at the moment. And then really quickly on Indonesia, we've seen 3 key deals this week, which should basically determine the future of any large-scale gas and LNG project which is being developed out there. So the first is that Chevron has officially left the Indonesia Deepwater Development Project, and Eni has officially taken over. This has been in the works for some years now. However, the fact that it's now done and dusted means that Eni can now fast-track that development. And apparently they are planning on getting started on that pretty much immediately. So this could be quite a speedy development in future. So the work should last between 4 and 5 years, starting from this year. Secondly, we've got Shell. So Shell has sold its 35% stake in the Masela PSC. So this contains, of course, the giant gas field Abadi, and that's to Pertamina and Petronas for $650 million. Both of these sales, so basically the one I spoke about, which is IDD, and also the Masela PSC, they're both a good move, especially when you talk about the large-scale LNG projects in the region. So the biggest of which is the Abadi LNG project at $16 billion. And that's seen a lot of interest from off-takers in China and Japan, so it's one to watch out for in future, certainly. And also really quickly, the last one, it's a potential deal, so it's something that's on the cards. So it's not been formalized yet, but it's for the tuna field, and it is Zarubezhneft rather. So the Russian company Zarubezhneft is selling its stake in the tuna field, potentially, maybe to Middle East and Asian investors. However, it definitely wants to leave the project because there's been a lack of progress, of course, following sanctions on Russian companies, and it's partnered with Harbour on that development. So first gas, hypothetically, 2026, but I think we'll watch this space, basically, on that one.
Very good. Fantastic. And thanks for homing in on those particular areas. Any other significant contract information that would interest our lovely viewers and audience in the supply chain? This is the most scribbled down part of the show. Do you realise that? This is
Well, I'll try and keep it brief then for contracts, because I mean, contract-wise, we've seen, I think, over 125 major contracts awarded this year in the upstream sector alone. So this tells you the level of project activity. We've also seen a rise in the number of subsea awards this year, so year on year from 2022 to 2023. And that growth has actually been driven by increasing activity offshore Africa. So offshore Angola in particular, to be precise. And this is around the full-scale development of Eni's Agogo field offshore there. However, in terms of jumping around the globe with the largest scale contracts, the biggest are, of course, related to the Middle East. So this is courtesy of Saudi Aramco. So this is their brownfield long-term agreement program. And they've got quite a few preferred bidders, which are bidding on packages of work out there. So we've got Lamprell at the moment, who are preferred bidders for CRPO 125 and CRPO 126. And we've also got McDermott, who are up for CRPO 99, CRPO 100, and CRPO 101. And this is just over the past 2 months alone. And of course, honorable mention to Saipem, they have picked up significant work on CRPO 124, which will involve work on the Manifa field in future. And also really to touch on Guyana, because we can't talk about oil and gas without talking about Guyana. Of course, it's a growing oil and gas frontier region, and we've seen significant contracts handed out to Bomesk, Dynamac, and also Dalian Shipbuilding Industry Company by Modec for the new build M350 FPSO, which is being built for the Uaru field offshore there. So plenty of opportunities. If you've never been involved in Guyana, if you want to get involved in Guyana, please do. There are clearly plenty of opportunities out there.
Fantastic. You maybe heard it here first, folks. So yeah, as we meet our members and viewers, they say that this is the part where people are trying to video this part on their phones. yeah, so they can take it into the next sales meeting. Brilliant. Thank you so much for that. I read something really interesting today, and I have to hold my hands up and say it's the first one that I've read, although it's the 7th of its ilk. The 7th Survive and Thrive report that came out, I think, this week from EIC. What a fascinating read.
I know, yeah. I figured it would fit in really well with this session, honestly, because it's the skills and training session. So just to kind of put it out there for anybody, if you aren't aware of Survive and Thrive, like Eric said, it's on its 7th edition now. And basically, it's a report initiative which is spearheaded by our CEO, Stuart Broadley. And essentially what it does is it draws on insights from 96 interviews with energy supply chain leaders worldwide and sheds light on the preferred growth strategies employed by businesses over the last year. So literally, how have you survived and how have you thrived? So I figured some of the key messages which came out of this edition would actually be quite relevant here. So some of those concern, I guess, skills and training. So one of the things that came out of this report is that there is definitely a skills shortage concern. However, this has not yet developed into a full-blown skills crisis. Businesses are still able to meet their growth commitments with the resource that they have, and no work is yet having to be turned away because of the skills shortage, but it does seem to be on the horizon for businesses if things aren't addressed now. And we are seeing a higher incidence of outsourcing where businesses don't have resource. So this means that what we're looking at is a crunch to come, but nothing at the moment, basically. So I guess that's semi-good news in a way. The main issues, I think, globally, which seem to be arising is, and I think I've seen a lot of comments around this as well in the chat too, is basically finding the right people to fill roles, retaining staff as there is increasing levels of poaching of skilled personnel by rival businesses, plus some businesses which were interviewed for the report stated, it's an open chat, isn't it, that while they could find people, the levels of pay now expected by staff had risen significantly. So they were having problems retaining staff and finding employees for the price ranges that they needed. And I sort of mentioned it before, more skilled workers in the industry are returning back to working in oil and gas over some of the other sectors. And the reason is because there is a clearer pipeline of opportunities for work and also higher profit margins in the sector, which makes it less of a risk. And basically, that's the findings of the report in a nutshell. However, if any of you have any questions or comments about it, happy to be contacted.
Yes, superb. Reach out to Diveena or jump onto the EIC website or put EIC Survive and Thrive 7 and you can get the direct link into to have a look at the summary of the study. It's fascinating, as is all of the information that you guys have given us today. Teresa and Diveena, thank you so much for sharing your time with us. And just a bit of a call to anyone in our audience who'd like to extend the conversation to do what Diveena said and reach out and connect. Thank you so much, Diveena. Thank you so much, Teresa.
Cheers, Eric.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. We have reached the end of our show this month. It always comes around so quickly. A big thank you to all of our guests today, and thank you to all of you for joining us. The show would be nothing without you joining and all of your interaction and comments. Just a rough look here. I think we're going to go with Soren Weiss-Hartmann as our question comment of the day. Soren, we will be in touch to sort you out with your free half page in a future edition of OGV Energy Magazine. We look forward to seeing all of you again on Wednesday, August the 30th, a slightly different day, at 2 p.m. when our theme of this show and of the magazine will be hydrogen and CCUS. We'll have another set of fantastic guests, and we loved doing this show last year. This will be another absolute topper of a show. If you're sitting out there thinking, well, I'm very prevalent in the hydrogen and CCS world, and I'd like to be on that show, then drop me a line. I'll put up my email address. It is Eric Doyle at theogvstudio.com. And that is it. So get in touch if you'd like to be on the show and like to take the conversation further. Thanks to all our guests today. Thanks to all of you for joining us. We will see you again. I'm just going to finish with this because it's a little top and tail.